usually it's a large consensus that people are hyping something up and people are investing in it because they don't want to miss out. A lot of FOMO. So the problem is that eventually reality hits and prices crash.
The risk of underinvesting in AI is dramatically greater than the risk of overinvesting. I wonder if human lifespan will actually be able to be prolonged through this technology. That would be very interesting.
I wonder if AI is going to be smarter than humans in terms of innovation, right?
But technology is such a large part of most indexes today. It could be a major hit. Welcome in everyone to MBA Unplugged. We are back with you. My name is Charles Winfrey.
And my name is Lee Wong. And today we're going to be talking about whether or not we think AI is truly in a bubble. I mean, recently we've seen how there's a whole bunch of hype going around AI and that people are attaching a lot of value to it. And so we want to see whether or not there's some real long-term value in it. First of all, what is a bubble? Just put really, really simply, it's when usually it's a large consensus that people are hyping something up and people are investing in it because they don't want to miss out. A lot of FOMO. So the problem is that eventually reality hits and prices crash. So let's get your opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, it's a very interesting topic. I believe it's really what's driven a lot of volatility in the market today. Everyone has a different opinion. Are we in a bubble? Are we not? Is AI spending too high? Is it not? Are valuations too high? Who knows? And to be honest, I don't think it's a very objective thing. It's really just your opinion. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's really what we want to come on here today and talk about. I know Liam has an opinion on it. I have an opinion. I think I'm more of an optimist, but I think that's just kind of by nature of myself. But I think a first place to really start is kind of laying context of where we are in the market today. Mm-hmm. So as we all know, if you don't, the Magnificent Seven, the 7 largest tech companies in the world, have been driving a lot of gains in the market. I think I saw a stat that it's almost made up over half of the market's returns thus far. And I think we're getting to a point now of, is this becoming a problem? Whenever you have S&P 500's 500 companies, whenever 7 of them are driving majority of the gains, I feel like that's got to be that's a little alarming at one point. So I think that's where we are today. I know it's a lot that we could talk about. So yeah, let's kind of just get into it.
Yeah, I think the first thing I kind of want to mention is that I am pretty pro. I don't think that AI is a bubble. If it is a bubble, it's a pretty small one. I think that we've seen how AI is already transforming and is producing real economic value. I mean, just one stat, we've seen how AI has shown actual productive improvement within 10 to 40% with things like coding, customer service, analytics, product development. And so I think my thing is that because it's producing real value, I don't think it's a bubble. I mean, some common counter arguments to it are that some AI companies are pre-revenue, right? They have an unproven business model, but from what I've seen, the ones that are doing really well are producing real value.
Yeah, I mean, I want to challenge that in a way. You said those things you named, coding 10 to 40%. Okay, I hear that. Mm-hmm. But when NVIDIA says they're going to invest $100 billion into OpenAI, is just coding, is that enough return on investment to say conclusively that this isn't a bubble, or that's justified?
What do you think about that? I think, I think it's difficult. I mean, it's the entire question we're asking. In my opinion, we have some of the smartest people in the world working on this right now.
Yeah.
Not to excuse that as well, because we've seen what happened to the dot-com bubble as well, but I think people see the potential with AI. I mean, I think Sam Altman, he was literally saying that at one point when the 7 model comes out, or a certain type of model comes out, this AI will be maybe better than him at running his own company. And so at what point why should he be in leadership of ChatGPT, right? Or OpenAI as a whole?
Yeah.
Instead, he should pass it on to the AI model who can literally do every single task far more efficient.
He said, let's pass it on to
Yes,
That's
he
crazy.
did.
That's a little scary.
So, I think that there are people who truly do believe in this space. I think that the money they're investing will see a return, but I think there are going to be some serious consequences to that as well.
Yeah. No, that's good. So let's kind of start with, where is all of this funding, financing, who's writing these CapEx checks starting from? So if we compare, back in 2000, during the dot-com crash, a lot of these companies, I saw a statistic, it was 14% of companies were not profitable.
Wow.
And of tech companies, excuse me. And the companies who were really propping up the market then were these companies who all they did was attach .com to their name, had no business model, had very little revenues, if any, and weren't profitable, and were fueled a lot by debt. And I think over time, investor speculation, there's no product, there's no underlying cash generating asset here. Okay, why is the company valued at billions of dollars? So that happened in 2000. Today, who are writing these checks are hyperscalers. Hyperscalers being Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, and Google. Some of the most profitable companies in the world, and companies that are cash generating businesses. So I think it's a little different. Yes, in terms of valuations, it may be a little speculative that we're just a little overvalued maybe historically.
Yeah.
But if we go down to the premise of this conversation of who's writing these CapEx checks, I think whenever the company is generating $100 billion in free cash flow, okay, maybe they can invest whatever amount in CapEx for the year. So I think it's the dot-com bubble to today. I think it rhymes, but I don't think it mirrors each other.
I think that's very fair. On topic of capex, right, or like capital expenditures, you have these large investments that you're making in order to help support your business and essentially invest back into the business. There's one thing here that's pretty interesting, right? We have infrastructure demand, which is pretty real. So you have the semiconductor chips, the data centers, the cloud capacity.
Right.
So we have a large amount of data here, but the data supply and the AI. However, we've also seen a large amount of startups become like these chat GPT overlay stickers. So essentially what that means is just like you have like an advertising marketing business, and you have the base of that be chat GPT. So what we have here now is a large amount of new startups really relying on, some mediocre coding, right?
Yeah.
And so they require the demand and the infrastructure demand. And so if these weaker startups are requiring such infrastructure demand, is the infrastructure demand just a mirage, right? Because it could just be relying on the fact that there are so many new startups coming into play with a .ai attached to the end of their name. So what are your thoughts about that?
I think it's interesting. Whenever NVIDIA announced they're investing $100 billion into OpenAI, I believe somewhere in that deal it said by whatever year it was that they wanted 10 gigawatts of power in terms of just demand that they can train these LLMs on. Well, I think I saw a statistic that said that is enough power to power a 8 million person city.
Wow.
And so whenever we talk about demand, I wouldn't say, I don't know. I think in my opinion, I wouldn't say demand is propped up because it's the CEO of Google, Sundar Pichai, I believe I might have misenunciated that, but the CEO of Google, he made a point, I'm going to paraphrase. He said, the risk of underinvesting in AI is dramatically greater than the risk of overinvesting. And I think with that mantra from somebody who's at the top of the tech field, who's in writing these checks, I think that kind of sets the scene that we're in. So I think it's almost a sense of FOMO for these companies that if I don't continue to invest in this AI demand, AI infrastructure, data centers, cloud compute, my company is going to be left behind. So to your point, I would almost say, I wouldn't say it's maybe just propped up. I think again, I'm an optimist. This is my opinion, but I really do think like the amount of spending we're seeing, the numbers. AMD recently had an investors day 2 weeks ago. Lisa Su, the CEO of AMD, Advanced Micro Devices, she said by 2030, they see a $1 trillion plus total addressable market for compute.
Wow.
And I think with that being said, like you see those numbers, 1 trillion, like I don't even know how many zeros that is. Like with that being said, I feel like the demand, when does it slow down? It's like.
That's fair. I mean, I only have one issue. You could clarify me if I'm wrong here, but you mentioned like AMD, ChatGPT, OpenAI, you mentioned Google, you mentioned some other tech companies, and then the quote you gave was that like, the risk of not investing in AI is like much higher. We're gonna talk about FOMO here now. Could it all just be these companies are like siphoning FOMO off of each other? Like it's just like mirrored walls in front of each other. we're going to invest more because they're going to invest more, and we're going to invest more
Mm,
because they're going to invest more.
yeah.
And then that kind of does create that sort of bubble-like field. Do you think that's happening right now?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I'm not sure, but I think a- um, that speculative kind of way to look at it. Okay, this guy on my left he's putting in 100. This
Yeah.
guy on my right, he's putting in 150. Let me put in 200.
Yeah.
I think that can definitely create this sense of let's just keep going.
Mm.
I made a video on this recently. I said it almost gives the vibe as if the companies are saying we're gonna build today and worry about the cost tomorrow. Question is, how long does today last? And most importantly, how long will investors let today last? At the end of the day, over the last year and a half, I think if a company is raising their capex, investors see that as a positive sentiment. However, when are we going to get to the point, and who knows this, when investors, and it might be now, when investors will say, okay, you're investing X amount into capex, but when are we going to start seeing an ROI or return on our investment on that capex?
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's when we talk about a bubble bursting. Never know you're in a bubble until it bursts. But at the end of the day, whenever we talk about would that bubble burst, I think whenever we start asking that question, and it's a legitimate bear case, like we're spending all this money, when are we gonna get it back? Like, who knows? And I mean, you brought up great points of coding, other ways that they're automating all these different tasks using these LLMs, large language models. But at the end of the day, it's like, I feel like we're expecting something bigger that we haven't gotten yet.
Yeah, for sure. I think, no, exactly to your point, we're expecting like cyberpunk, right? Like we're expecting a huge futuristic city with AI.
Yeah.
But my question to you is like, you mentioned offline about like investing. I think you said vendor financing.
Yeah.
So
Let's talk about
what is that? Can you
That's good.
explain to us what that actually means and everything?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So there was a chart that was put out. I forgot who put it out, but it was essentially little bubbles of companies and how big they invested in another company. So picture a circle here, circles all over the place, but there were just arrows showing how NVIDIA invested in OpenAI, and then OpenAI is going to buy NVIDIA's chips. And then using those chips, NVIDIA is going to build these large language models. But it's like, didn't NVIDIA just pay themselves?
Yeah.
They invested this money into OpenAI for OpenAI to go back into invest in themselves using their chips. That's called vendor financing. And it's happened before, but a lot of people believe when an industry begins to take on vendor financing, that is when ideas of we are in a bubble begin to arise. Because think about it, it almost gives the vibe. If I ask you, let's say I sell cookies.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to give you $100. Well, with those $100, you're going to come buy my cookies. It almost gives the vibe as if I can't get it from somewhere else in a way. And that may be far reached, but I believe whenever we hear vendor financing, that's why people kind of get, oh my goodness, is this a bubble? Because it gives the vibe as if there's nowhere else to get this large sum of money to fulfill these projects. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think vendor financing is it's very interesting. And I wish we could put that chart on there. It's a crazy chart.
Yeah.
I'm gonna see if I can find it and add it on there. But yeah, no, that's really vendor financing.
I think that's a great point. I think like coming back to the topic of the bubble, right? We talk about how innovation is like a major component of tech. Like whenever you're looking at any type of financing in tech, innovation drives a lot of value. Are we seeing a lot of innovation happening present day time? Do you think that we are?
No, that's a good point. I think there is definitely innovation within LLMs. I think there is a vast difference between ChatGPT 1 and ChatGPT 5.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Okay.
So if we talk about from a large language model, from an AI, I don't like it, it's a buzzword. From a large language model perspective, I think absolutely. But if we talk about, are we seeing innovation from maybe these hyperscalers investing in CapEx into these different projects? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I've been hearing things that hyperscalers being Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google are finding new ways to have revenue advertisement subscriptions through AI. Okay, well, maybe that's innovation there. But like, has it been something tangibly that I can feel and see that innovation? It's tough to say.
Yeah, this is actually a really difficult conversation. I think one last question I really want to ask is, if it is a bubble, what are the consequences?
Ooh, well, if I knew the answer, I don't think I'd be here now. What would be the consequences? I feel like that's something like somebody can actually do a study. These companies, these X amount of companies have given us X amount of gain in the market. If X companies EPS or earnings per share growth or revenue growth or whatever the company trades on declines, maybe we could calculate how much of a risk that would be to the market.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be scary. I mean, we've been driven up so far. I think markets has been on a rise since the end of 2022. So we've had up here in 23. We had 20% in 23, 20+% in 24, and I'm not sure where we are right now. I think it's around maybe like 10 since Liberation Day. So, I mean, everything that comes up must come down. I feel like everything retracement to the mean. I think the market is also tends to kind of rig to go up, but that's a conversation for another day. But I don't know. Consequences is definitely gonna be major.
Yeah. Who do you think are going to be impacted?
I think the companies we name are going to be last.
Interesting.
I say that because they're the shovel in this gold rush environment, and the people who are providing, who are the supplier of these, are going to be last to go. And let me not say go, just take it. It's a nice hit in the stock price. But to your point, MIT did a study. It was around 40 AI companies. I forgot the size of them, but they said 95% of them aren't profitable. And again, they weren't taking like the hyperscalers into perspective. These were kind of the low end companies who you said are building off these LLMs. But I mean, you hear that number and it's like, okay, well, if this takes a turn in the opposite direction, that y'all might be gone. So I think consequences, man, it's tough. Definitely a hit to the market. I don't know how big. I don't know if it's fair to say 2000 levels, like 2000.com. Definitely not GFC, Great Financial Crisis. It's a whole different animal, because this is really just centered around technology.
Yeah.
But technology is such a large part of most indexes today. It could be a major hit.
Do you think that there's a certain like fear factor to it? I mean, like in terms of, let's say, everyday college students or everyday man or woman, right? They're investing into like the S&P or 97, like people who are truly like think, okay, wow, we're not talking about Bitcoin, but we're just talking about like, yeah, right. We're talking about these like really high tech funds that are really overperforming, and they see this and they're like, okay, cool. And now there's sort of a bubble going around, there's a bit of fear going around, they're going to lose all their money. What do you think that their sentiment should be towards the AI space right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think for us, we have an advantage. We are under the age of 21. Like, we have, God willing, 40 plus years until we'll retire. Truth be told, what happens in the next 5 years or how bad it is, more than likely we'll recover the time we need the money.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it can be difficult. Again, if you need the money, it's a little different. Like, which always invest what you're willing to lose, they say. But at the same time, I feel as if we give it enough time, I mean, markets are always gonna. I mean, the economy is fundamentally propped up by the stock market. So I believe it could be tough. Like, and it's a scary situation. But I mean, index your funds away, I think is always the best way. What it comes up must come down, and the reciprocal, what comes down must go back up. So if we're looking at it from a long-term perspective, if you just broaden your time horizon, it's like, okay, this is cool, but I know like in a couple of years, like, as hard as it is, don't get it twisted. I'm a big Bitcoin guy. Bitcoin just touched $87,000. And it was at 126 a couple months ago.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's a third of its value eliminated. So yeah, looking at open up the account, it's pretty red. It's tough. All I see is red, very red. But at the same time, I know if you believe in the asset, if you believe in the stock, if you believe in the index or whatever it may be, over time, I mean, just time is your favorite, recoup over time.
Exactly.
That's what I would say.
I think I have one last like fun question. What do you think is the best invention or innovation we're going to see out of AI?
Wow. I wish I knew. Let me ask you first. What do you think is the best innovation or
Better be superpowers. That's what I'm saying.
That'll come from AI. That's real.
I don't know. I hope it's like a medical advancement. I don't know. That's pretty. I don't know if this is gonna happen, but let's
Why
see.
not?
Just people who are willing to probably keep the technology to the profits or whatever. But discussion for another day. I think that the most interesting thing we'll see is hopefully maybe flying cars. I would love to see that.
No, they've been talking about flying cars for a while.
They
but
have.
It's never like.
We've seen it in the Back to the Future. It was in the here by now. It's not here.
I would say a medical advancement. like a cure to Alzheimer's, cure to
Mhm.
cancer, cure to a disease that's plagued so many families. And I would definitely say there. I think in terms of like something like technology, I wonder if like human lifespan will actually be able to be
Yeah.
prolonged
Yeah.
through this technology. That would be very interesting.
I wonder if AI is going to be smarter than humans in terms of like innovation, right? So like actually like for example, if I tell them to synthesize a new compound, will they be able to perform that in
Mm,
action, right?
yeah,
And then be able to find cures that humans couldn't have.
yeah. And I mean, in a couple of years, we'll be talking about quantum computing. All we're talking about is artificial
Yeah.
intelligence right now, and that's just a whole nother level that
Yeah.
I can't even
I
comprehend.
remember the growth rate of like how intelligent computers have been in terms of like memory, size, speed, and it's just been like this. Not even like
Yeah,
this, it's been like
I think
this. Straight
it's
up.
a law. I think it's called. I don't know if it's Moore's law,
I
but
know what
it's.
you're talking about. Yep.
I think it is Moore's law. They say every 2 years, I think like the power of quantum doubles or the power of
Yeah.
intelligence doubles,
Yep.
something along those lines. I'm not sure. I think it is Moore's law, but it's like every 2 years, whatever
That's
the
exactly what I was talking
intelligence
about.
doubles. That's crazy. It's
insane.
ridiculous. But it's like get to a point. All right, we up here. I mean, can we
Yeah.
keep going?
That's insane. That's
Yeah.
insane. But I'm glad we got this conversation. I think that, at the end of the day, nobody really knows what a bubble,
Nobody.
if we are in a bubble. I think that it's all about what you believe in and then look at the data for yourself and come to your own conclusion.
Facts. No, I agree. At the end of the day, it's all speculative.
Yeah.
Speculative. If we knew, we probably wouldn't be here, and if you knew, you probably wouldn't be watching this video. But yeah, no, we appreciate you for watching this video. Again, this is just our opinion. This is not financial advice at all. It's just the opinions of us. And do your own research if you do decide to make an investment decision. But with that, if you learned something, please share this video with at least one person. Trying to get the word out, really just educate our people on what's going on in these markets. With that being said, we hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.